Hi, and welcome back to Beyond the Monsters. Today we have Paul with us.
Hello.
Hello.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Tell me, is there room for me to cry? Is the devil all inside my mind? I don't wanna die like this, I wanna live my life.
Okay, Paul, the floor is all yours.
Well, the floor is all mine.
Yeah, it
so-
is all yours, wherever
right.
you want to start.
Well, I don't guess you know too much about me. 'Cause
I don't.
You haven't really,
Yes.
brushed that up. But
I'm excited.
I've been a writer, producer, and filmmaker, actor, stuntman. I guess I've worn a couple of hats in the entertainment industry over the last few years. I wasn't always into acting. I have an electronics background, and I did a lot of work for the government and local government as well. And, well, trauma will change your course in life.
Sure does.
When you go through qualifying events that change everything about you, that rebrand and relabel you, you have to adapt and overcome. And that's what I did. I had some traumatic events occur throughout my life. And with each one, I got tougher. I got angry. They say that anger is much more useful than despair, and they are correct. But you have to know how to tame it and control it. They say it's better to be a warrior in a garden than a gardener in a war.
Yes.
So, and I think that's part of what being a man is all about, is being able to balance that, control it, and try to turn any and every bad situation into a good resolve at the end.
That's why I love that you're coming on here to share this, because so many men, especially, it's like so hush hush. They feel they can't talk about it. They feel like no one else goes through these things.
Right.
So,
and because we're taught that it's weakness, you'll speak to a man and they'll hardly ever cry. They won't ever cry in front of you. And it's because we're programmed that that's a sign of weakness,
right.
and that we have to hold that in. Okay. And it's a lonely road being a man, and depending on what road you're traveling down or what hand you're dealt, will determine, I guess, how forged by the fire you become.
Right.
Now, I grew up in Texas.
Okay.
Was born and raised there, and I guess from childbirth, I was kind of always faced with a little adversity. I was born pigeon-toed, where my feet turned in. And
Yeah.
I had to wear special shoes with braces that had these bars that linked my feet, but kept my feet
keep
turned
them.
outward. Right.
Yes. Okay.
So I had to learn to walk like that. And if I don't concentrate on my walk, I will actually almost trudge. And I've had so many people comment on why do you walk that way? And I'm like, what way? And they're like,
Right.
with purpose. And I'm like, well, I don't know,
Right.
But I've actually had people, be offended by it. I was a service department manager at a Nissan dealership, and I never will forget the lady over our title agency. She came out, she's like, why are you stomping through the lobby? And I said, what do you mean stomping? You're scaring the customers. And I'm like, I'm sorry, you're not a small guy and you're stomping. And I'm like, I'm not stomping.
You're like, this is my walk, lady.
Right. And then I thought about it. And I thought, well, she's basically pointing out the one thing that I overcame a disability,
Right.
but didn't know,
Yes.
and I just kind of shrugged it off, it happens. But I've always kind of had a run to the fire, sense of duty, I guess. Growing up, when I was about 5 years old, I underwent an event that triggered an allergic response called acute epiglottitis, and that was a swelling of the throat.
Okay.
And I spent 6 months in an oxygen tent in a hospital in Austin, Texas. Yeah. I had another event that just happened, I guess, a couple of years ago, which prompted me to go get some therapeutic counseling. And when I went through that, it triggered and opened up suppressed memories. Of,
Never easy.
oh no,
Yeah.
no. And I relived that event at that moment
As an adult.
as an adult when I was 5. So it really kind of changed my perspective on things. It gave me a new outlook. Now, as I grew up, of course, things changed. I grew up in a very stern household, but a split home. My biological father was a musician, biker, all-around bad guy, sex, drugs, rock and roll. So, of course, that didn't last long being married to my mother. Of course, they divorced and she moved on. And my stepfather was a law enforcement officer for many, many years. So I grew up in that household as well. So on one hand, I would go to my father's on the weekends where I would throw on the leather jacket,
Do whatever.
jeans with the holes. And, 9 times out of 10, I'd probably have a pistol in my pocket. But then go to my mother's, and I'm wearing the Izods, the khaki shorts, the, loafers and playing the violin. And
Wow. So you had to be two completely different people.
two completely different people. What happened in Vegas stayed in Vegas. It was, but that was my life. And I really think that helped me in acting because I got to live 2 different roles for the majority of my life.
Yes. Was stepdad militant? Because he was, okay.
Yeah.
You can get into more detail on that if you want to.
Well, but I have mixed emotions and feelings about that. The man did take on a responsibility that wasn't his.
Right.
Taught me right from wrong, taught me a lot of things that your normal children don't get taught. Being in a law enforcement background, I would go hunting with 4 or 5 cops, dove hunting and stuff like that as a kid growing up, and fishing. And, I just grew up around that. But it was ironic because I would leave that and then go to my father's on the weekends, and totally different environments.
Yeah.
Spectrum here, spectrum there.
Right.
But it taught me a lot about respect from both sides of the tracks. There's not just black and white. There's a lot of gray area on both sides, good and evil. And I learned to respect and really kind of cherish those moments on both sides that were beneficial, that helped me through, the trials and tribulations of life and trauma. Now, later, grew up, got married, had some kids, was working for the state of Texas at the time. I loved my job. I worked for Texas Parks and Wildlife. Absolutely loved it. Was a volunteer firefighter. My kids my oldest was just starting school. And I got to go to the school and do a whole demonstration of the fire gear. And so, the chief was explaining what the fireman was wearing, and I'm taking it all off as he's explaining. Then when I pull the helmet off and my kid sees my face, he's like, Dad!
Yeah.
So that's one moment I'll never forget.
He was definitely the cool kid then.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. But, things go awry. People change. And my wife at the time, we divorced. And I later moved to North Carolina from Texas.
Okay. How old are you now?
I want to say I was 26,
Okay.
27, something like that.
Okay.
So I moved to North Carolina and got another government job.
Okay.
Went to work for the city of Gastonia. And I was working on building patrol cars, police cars, ambulances, fire trucks. I worked in the communications department. I built the in-car camera systems. In fact, I was one of the first 5 in the state of North Carolina to be certified, factory trained and certified by Custom Signal, which was the in-car digital camera systems, the very first digital camera systems from when they went from the VCR to the computer hard drive. So I've got a little bit of a technical background, a long history with law enforcement, and I was trying to do, what was right, So ended up getting a divorce and moved here to spend a little time with my brother, who I really didn't get to grow up with. He grew up with my father. I grew up with my mother and stepfather, and there was a long period of time that I didn't get to see my father. Yeah.
So that meant also not seeing your brother?
Yeah,
Yeah.
didn't see him growing up either. It was a situation where my mother knew it was a bad environment and decided that it was in my best interest not to be there. I can still remember the whole psychological buildup of that, being the child that's told your dad's coming to see you and pack a bag, and you're standing on the couch looking over the back of the couch through the window and just waiting for him to pull up so you can spend the weekend with him, and he never shows,
Oh,
mainly
boy.
because he never knew to be there.
Oh.
So you tear down someone and then slide the substitute in the place. I stumbled across that because I actually had forgotten my father and my brother growing up.
Okay.
When you were subjected to the norm for so long, you consider that to be the norm
Mm-hmm.
and not the actual truth. So I bumped into my brother by accident when I was 16. Yeah. He was working at a shoe store in the mall. I think it was Kenny's Shoes. And I was starting my first job, and I needed a pair of steel-toe work boots. So I was like, I'll just run to the mall, get some work boots, hit the video arcade, and go home.
Yeah.
So I walk in, and there's a guy standing there with a name tag that says Paul. And I'm like, hey, my name's Paul. So, right. Well, our father's name was Paul, and it's a long story, but I thought, that's cool, So we're looking around, and I'm telling him, I just turned 16. I'm looking for a pair of steel-toe work boots, blah, blah, blah.
You have no idea.
No idea.
Neither one of you. At
No,
this point.
neither. Well, as soon as I kind of told him my age and he's looking at me, he's like, is your mother's name Gwen? And I'm like, yeah. And it's like, your grandparents, Virgil and Mary Van Sickle from Henderson, Texas. And I'm like, yeah.
Who
I'm
the
like,
hell
who
are
is this
you?
guy? I've never seen you before in my life.
Yeah.
And he's like, I'm your brother. What? And I'm thinking, man, this guy's drinking the bong water or something. There's something going on here. So I'm kind of a little leery at this point. I'm like, yeah, okay, yeah, whatever. Thinking,
And you're only 16.
16.
Taking all this in.
Right. I'm like, just give me the boots. Let me get the hell out of here.
Just trying to start a new job, dude.
Right. So I buy the boots, and he's like writing down his phone number, give us a call. Dad'd love to see you. Dad. Okay. So I leave, and I'm thinking to myself, what did I do? What just happened?
Yeah.
So I'm sitting at home, and I'm starting to suspect things, and I'm starting to look at things. And I remembered when I was a child going through a photo album and seeing myself as a 2 or 3 year old. I think I was maybe 2 or 3. And I'm sitting in a wooden rocking chair, and this wooden rocking chair has my name engraved on the back of the backing of the chair.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, well, maybe there's a clue. So I waited and I waited. And eventually my entire family decided to go make a trip to Walmart. And I was old enough to stay home by myself. I was like, say I'm 16, I'll go.
Right.
So they go, and as soon as they pull out of the driveway, I'm watching, they're driving down the street. I run out to the garage, pull down the attic door, and I run up there to find that rocking chair. Turn on the light, and there it is, and I slide it a little closer to me, and of course it just has my first and second name, Paul David, on the back of the chair.
Mm-hmm.
No, damn, that doesn't do me any good. So I slid it back, But when I did, I shoved it back. I guess I was a little disappointed, but I shoved it back hard enough that it went off the edge of the plywood in the attic, hit the insulation, and flipped over.
Shit.
When it flipped over, all 3 initials were engraved on the bottom of the seat. And that last initial was different than what I had. So then I knew everything that I was taught and grew up and raised to believe was a lie.
Gosh, what did you feel at that moment?
Oh, my God.
Like, how do you even process that at
I
16?
still get cold chills just thinking about it, reliving it,
Yeah.
because it was so hard to grasp. But then it started really making sense. And I was like, well, that makes sense for why I'm being treated a little bit differently than my sister, so on and so forth. It was a little more than just male and female, son and daughter treatment. And I don't know, I was very disappointed.
Yeah.
I was very hurt. But then it inspired me to want to know why. Right. And the more that I was wrestling with that, I thought, you know what? I'm going to find that phone number. So I dug out and I found the phone number and I called him and I was like, the phone rings and I'm, hey, can I speak to Paul? And they're like, which one? Well, we didn't have cell phones back then, you know.
Right.
So I'm calling the home phone. And it was my grandmother who I didn't remember, didn't know. And she's like, well, neither one of them are here right now. Can I take a message? And I'm like, I'll call back because the last thing I want to do is leave the number to that house.
Oh, yes. Yes.
Bing. And so I said, I'll call back. And I think a couple of days passed by and I called again and got my brother. And he was very excited that I called, said, Dad would love to see you, you know, would like to meet somewhere and blah, blah, blah. And I was thinking to myself, you know, I need to do this to find out for myself.
Were you having a hard time, though? It was probably playing through your head nonstop. Like, why did my mom lie to me? Why,
Mm-hmm.
you know, that's very hard on a 16-year-old.
It is, but, you know, after I grew up and became an adult, and this will make sense for another revelation that I'll tell you about here shortly. But as I grew up and became a parent, I forgave my mother because I know what the intent was.
Yeah.
However selfish it may have been, I was very grateful in a way for it.
Maybe she was trying to protect you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I want to say I was 6, maybe 5 or 6. I can't remember if it was, yes, it was after the hospital incident. So I was about 6 the last time I saw them.
Oh, wow.
And, you know, when you go 7, 8, 9 with a completely different environment, different family, you were programmed to believe that is the norm, that is the real.
Mm-hmm.
So I keep having these flashbacks and memories of people, places, and things that weren't a part of my life. And I never put 2 and 2 together until that moment.
Mm.
And it kind of changed the course of things from there. I was, you know, very upset, very spiteful. I'd have to say that it was an eye-opener. When I found out to myself, I had to verify it. So I went to my high school and went to the counselor's office. I was like, look, I need to talk to somebody. And they pulled my school records. Now, I had been enrolled in school under my real name that had been scratched out and written the other name beside it. That's when I knew. And I was like, my last name is not my last name. I'm not who I thought I was.
Oh.
So I moved on from that.
Did you ever get explanations, like from mom or anything about any of it that you remember?
Other than I was doing what was best for you. Okay, I can swallow that. But, you know, the entire time growing up, telling your mother that, you know, there's instances going on, like my nose was broken in the car one day because I was backhanded. Yeah, I think I was 8. And
By stepdad.
yeah.
Okay.
And it was a rough childhood. In the same token, you have to be thankful for the fact that at least they were able to be there, or they wanted to be there. And for that, I have to be thankful for, because things could have turned out a lot worse than what they did for me. But later, you know, it's not until they see the abuse that they believe it. And then they feel so bad that they didn't listen to you before. Okay. And that's when Mother and I really got close. There was an instance where we were sitting down to have dinner. It was something, I think it was spinach. And I didn't like greens. I'm a meat and potatoes kind of guy.
Most teenagers, kids don't like them either. So,
and I just kind of went, ugh, you know, when I saw it.
Yeah.
And I guess he assumed that it was a safe place because my mother had just walked out of the kitchen to go wash her hands in the bathroom and get ready to sit down herself after serving everybody else. But she had forgotten something in the kitchen, so she immediately turned around and came back about the time that I was flying out of the back of my seat and into the cabinet where the pantry was. And she went to screaming. You know, she knew then what had happened and knew that everything that I had told her in the previous years had actually happened.
Wow. So all this time he's just doing it where no one else
Very,
can see.
very subtle, very under the radar.
Wow. Okay.
it really disturbed me when that happened and she got in his face, and I didn't want him to turn physical toward her. So that was the very first time that I stood up to him when I thought that my mother was threatened.
Okay.
That didn't end so well for me. I was then relocated. My mother went and rented an apartment for me and said, you're going to live here now. You need to pay your rent, pay your bills, and need to grow up. I was 16. So I got a couple of part-time jobs, a pizza place, this, that, and the other, and ended up having to drop out of school because, well, you can't work 2 jobs and go to school at the same time.
And feeling completely abandoned.
Yeah. So it was a rough road, but I kept plugging away at it. And eventually I got married and had kids.
Mm-hmm.
That ended very abruptly. I want to say 6 years we were married. I was working days, she was working nights. And this way we got out of childcare expenses.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we just bought a piece of land. We had 25 acres. Was starting to build a house. We had a future. Well, we hardly ever saw each other because she'd be at work at night, I'd be at work during the day. So she decided to kind of have an affair with her boss, who was married, and said, well, I figured I could just do him and send him home to his wife, were her exact words.
Ouch.
And I was supposed to be okay with that. So anyway, we got divorced. And I, had a real tough time of separating from my children at that time. My youngest was 6 months old or 7 months old. And my oldest, I want to say, was about 3.5.
Oh, little bitties.
And, when I'm there at night taking care of him, my youngest would wake up like clockwork between 4 and 4:15, crying, want to be fed, and that's the most hurtful feeling that you can feel when they are gone, to automatically wake up at 4 a.m. to go heat up a bottle, go rock them back to sleep, and you're half asleep. You go heat up the bottle, you walk into an empty crib.
Oh.
That happened, I think, 2 or 3 times right after we separated, and that was hard. Having that much to do with your children and then next to no contact after that, during divorce, it's always kind of rough.
Did she leave with the kids?
Oh, yeah.
Leave the house, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Then came back later, broke in and took all the furniture and everything out of it after we'd already filed for divorce, which I was thankful for because video cameras were just kind of like the big thing at that time. And I had one in the vehicle with me in my car because I knew growing up, there's always that he said, she said, but video proof is indisputable.
Right.
So I pulled up to the house and I see the front door wide open and I'm like, okay, grab the camera. So I walked through camcorder, she left me the recliner and a few of my clothes.
Wow,
that was it.
Sweet. That was sweet of her.
That was it. No dishes. No. I was like, what? So I slept in the recliner. But I took that video to my attorney during the divorce, and I was like, look, she tries to come after my family's land. Forget it. Shut her down. She violated the court order. All this stuff was supposed to remain in place.
Right.
But some people, you just can't tell them what they can and can't do. Mm-hmm. They will show you what they will and won't do. Anyway, she wasn't able to touch my parents' land. She did throw it up, and my attorney was like, showing the cassette, like, you really want to go there?
Right.
Because you'll go to jail.
Yes.
So they dropped it. We got divorced. And I was trying to, piece together a new life at this point. And my brother lived in North Carolina. I decided I wanted to be closer to him since we really didn't have a childhood together. Mm-hmm. So I moved to North Carolina and got a government job with the city. I would work 3 months, take off for a weekend, and go spend a weekend with my kids. So every 3 months, I built up enough vacation time that I could go spend 3 or 4 days with them every 3 or 4 months. So I did that for a couple of years, and I got them for 45 consecutive days of the summer during visitation. They came up to North Carolina, and I think it was summer of 2001 and 2. And then something changed in 2003. I went down to pick up my children, and she said, I don't want you to take them to North Carolina with you. And I said, well, the court orders specifically state I get them for 45 consecutive days. I can do what I want with them. as long as it's in their business and their interest and they're safe. So she threw a fit, didn't want me to go. I'm like, you know what, whatever. I'm going to enjoy my weekend. And I spent a couple of days, there in Tyler, Texas with my kids. And we packed up on Sunday and headed to North Carolina. When I got there, I called and said, hey, just letting you know, we made the trip safe. Kids are safe. We're at my home. Threw a fit. And I mean, threw a fit. Well, she had
Court order.
Right. And she should know this because she remarried and married a cop. So now we're repeating footsteps.
Yes.
And I really thought my children would be safe growing up in a law enforcement household. At least hopefully there was enough honor and respect there that my children would be protected. Well, she's throwing a fit. I'm wondering why, whatever, I'm hanging up. A few moments later, I get a call from Scott, who I worked with, who was the chief over the Emergency Operations Center, the 911 center. Now, I worked on bad equipment, the voters, the transmitters on the mountaintops, everything from the radios in the cop cars to the big voting systems and the console desk in the 911 center.
Wow.
So he calls me and he's like, where are you? I'm like, I'm at home. Why? And I'm thinking to myself, did the 911 center crash?
Yeah.
Do you need
Like,
techs
what
there?
happened?
Oh my
Yeah.
God, what's happening? And he's like, we just got a call from a police department in Tyler, Texas, saying that you're armed, dangerous, and have kidnapped your children. I'm like, excuse me? He said, you need to get out of your house. Now, I worked in Gaston County, but I lived in Lincoln County.
Okay.
And he said, Lincoln County's already been transferred to call. They've got armed officers and SWAT headed to your location for a hostage situation. So I'm like, say no more. So we got in the car and I took him to a restaurant. Now we just got out of the car for 16 hours of driving.
Yeah.
And we got to get back in the car. So we get back in the car when we go to a steakhouse.
Do they have an idea of what's going on at this
No,
point?
no.
Okay.
I just tell my kids, I'm like, look, Dad's really hungry. Aren't you hungry? Let's go get something to eat. Okay. I'll get you a steak, whatever you want. Okay. So we got in the car and we went, to the steakhouse, and we're sitting there, and I'm, of course, on the phone.
Yeah.
What the heck is going on? So I end up calling the police department down there in Tyler, Texas, and I speak to a Lieutenant David Long, and I'm like, what is going on? I'm sitting here reading him, my court orders. And he said, well, there's an incident report, yes, but not a kidnapping case. And I said, well, then you need to call dispatch up here and let them know to cease and desist because they're fixing to make a wrongful arrest.
Right.
They're going to create a very bad situation real quick. Well, he calls, they settle down, call everybody off of me. 3 days later, I get served with an emergency writ order, removing the children from my custody and placing them in the custody of the sheriff's department in Lincoln County. And I'm like, excuse me, what is going on?
Based on what?
Based on the fact that her husband, dressed up in uniform as a police officer, went before the judge with her, not as her husband, but as an officer of the law, stating that I was armed, dangerous, and kidnapped the children.
Whoa.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty ballsy.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Well, when you have something to hide, you do everything you can to conceal it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I was pretty upset by the fact, but I kept my children calm, and I said, you know what, let's get your things together. We'll get this sorted out. So we got the things together, and of course the sheriff's deputies are like, man, we really appreciate you not escalating this, and so on and so forth. And I was a lot bigger then than I am now. I've kind of shrunk with my age, but I've always worked part-time as a bouncer or security or something like that.
So they probably just assumed you were going to be an issue.
Right. Yes. They look at me, and of course I've got dumbbells over here
Yeah.
and in my living room and a shotgun on the rack on the wall over here, and they're like,
Yeah.
we really appreciate you not escalating this. And I knew quite a few of the law enforcement officers there in Lincoln County because I would have an altercation at the bar and I'd be throwing somebody out or whatever.
Right.
I even had one guy come back with a gun saying he was going to shoot me, and I'm like standing on the sidewalk. Well, you going to pull that thing or what? I'm here to do a job.
Right.
Don't take it personal. You're messing up. So a lot of them knew me, and they were like, this is a bad situation. If you need us to testify in your behalf, well, just let us know.
Oh,
And I'm like,
nice.
guys, I really appreciate that. And I said, take care of my kids. So they ended up taking them down the street to where my ex was waiting and released them to her. And she went back home.
And she's not even, no one's telling you what the reasoning is?
No.
Like, what's the incident?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Later, it was said that I had a revolving door of women in my life and that I was a bad influence on the children.
That honestly, in a court of law, that really doesn't matter unless you're doing shit in front of them.
Well, the ironic thing was I introduced them to 3 women in 3 years, and she introduced them to 3 men in 3 months. So pot to kettle,
Yes.
you know. But anyway, so I was dating a woman there at the time, and of course, you know, any woman that either wants children or has children, automatic red flags. Oh, this guy's having his kids taken from him.
Yeah.
So then for the 7 years that I fought in court battles over my children, anybody that I met automatically assumed, well, this is a bad guy. You know, he's had his kids taken from him, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
Waste of my time. You know, there goes your quality of, you know, the dating pool
Yeah.
to the cesspool of, I'm a reject, I'm a criminal, blah, blah, blah. So for like 7 years, I'm fighting for my kids and trying to prove my innocence over something that nothing happened. What spawned this? So I'm going back and forth. I make that trip like 40 some odd times to Texas and back from North Carolina to see my kids over the period of like 4 or 5 years after this.
So you now have to see them there?
Well,
You can't take them anymore?
they forced me to do supervised visitation
Jesus.
at a relative's house, whether it be their relatives or my relatives. But I had to have supervised. I couldn't leave the property with the children. I mean, it was bad. It was bad. I'm stopping by and making my rounds and seeing my family and everything while I'm there. My father, my biological father, his father, my grandfather, passed away in 2002. My father started kind of going downhill after that and ran with the wrong group of people already. And I went down there in August, the beginning of August, to see my kids and to see my father. And he looked rough. I begged him, just, you know what, just get in the car with me and come back with me. I felt I really needed to intervene in whatever it was that was creating this shell of what used to be my father. Mm-hmm. No, he couldn't leave the house, couldn't leave this, couldn't leave that, blah, blah, blah. Begged for him. 2 weeks later, I got a phone call that my father was in ICU. My father had been assaulted by someone who at that time I didn't know. His injuries eventually led to his death. He was in ICU for 10 days.
No.
That's a 16-hour drive from Charlotte, North Carolina to Tyler, Texas. I made it in 12. Just to hurry up and wait, you know.
Yeah.
So 10 days, he's in ICU. Doesn't look like he's going to make it. My brother, he served in Iraq, and he's like, I've seen enough death. I can't be here for this. So I drove him to the airport and let him fly home to be with his family. And then I went back to the hospital and took my dad off life support and held his hand and told him that I promised him I would find out who did this and I'd make him pay.
And he had no idea.
He's not responsive.
Oh, that whole time?
Yeah.
Oh, God.
And I felt his grip let go when he passed, and I promised. I made a promise. Well, I knew what kind of life my dad grew up in and what he surrounded himself in. And I decided I needed to learn more about that life. So I went to work for a motorcycle magazine. I became a writer and a photographer for a motorcycle magazine, which pretty much gave me free access and reign anywhere I wanted to go, clubhouses, wherever. And it was very informative. I learned a lot. And one day I decided that I was too far away to fight for my kids and discover any more about my father's murder from where I was at. So I quit my job with the city and packed everything I could in my SUV and went back home. I decided I needed to get in certain circles to be able to find out what information I needed to find out. to find who I was looking for. So I grew my hair out long, bought a Hurley, joined a motorcycle club, one of the biggest motorcycle clubs in the state of Texas. That was, you probably could put two and two together if you just look at the Twins Peak incident, and you'd know. But it was ironic because as I was investigating different clubs, lo and behold, I didn't run across the very same one that my dad's girlfriend was involved with, seeing one of the senior members of the club. And I was like, now I'm on the right track. My father was murdered over an ounce of methamphetamines. He was fronted the drugs and then wasn't able to pay for the drugs and was sent a message. So I started investigating and I started hunting down and, you know, learning the traffic of where the drugs were coming in, who was bringing them in, who was running cover for them at the sheriff's office, who was, you know, doing everything. Who the guy was, that the end dealer that was supplying it, who he sent to murder my father. I got so close to that man, I was dating his daughter.
What?
Yeah. So
Wow.
when you really want to find out something, you can go to extremes.
Yeah.
And I really think that it sharpened my acting skills and made me the actor that I am on screen, because I can just change gears, turn into whatever my environment
Whatever you
needs
need
me to be.
Yeah.
I'm still
You probably thought it was like cool, but like scary that you could do all that.
Oh, you know, I remember a time where we were going to Mingus, Texas for a bike rally. I think it was the 68th or 69th anniversary of the club. And, you know, you get mothered into a club. So I had a club mom, and I remember one night just hysterically crazy, waving a gun at me and just, you know, and we just rode in and it was pouring down rain. I was soaking wet. My leathers were wet. I was just like, fuck you, you know, and I laid back down. And as I laid down and I closed my eyes, I thought, am I going to see my brain splatter over this pillow in front of me?
Yeah.
You know, is that going to happen? But I was so tired and just so, you know what, I would welcome death at this point, and just went to sleep. Slept like a baby. Absolutely. So as I'm doing all this investigative work, my attorney's like, I could pop in and talk to him about my child custody case. He's like, this is not looking good for you. And I'm like, the OxyClean guy, I'm like, but wait, there's more. So I tell him everything. And he's like, turns white as a ghost. And he's like, I need you to tell me that same story tomorrow, but I need to bring a couple of people in. So I come back the next day, I pull up on the Hurley and I look up and there's like 3 black, you know, Impalas and SUVs in the parking lot. I'm like, oh shit, the Fed's here.
Oh God.
You know,
Yeah.
I can smell a Fed a mile away. You know, I worked around in law enforcement enough. It's like, oh, federal.
Yeah.
So I walk in and my attorney meets me in the lobby. He's like, okay, look, we got so-and-so, so-and-so, and so-and-so, and so-and-so. County. And I'm like, county got to go. I'm not saying shit in that room with a county officer in there.
Mm-hmm.
So they dismiss him and I go in and I'm like, look, you know my background, obviously. You know, I've got 13 years with law enforcement. I'm not here to play. I said my original intent was to kill every one of these people for what they took from me.
Yeah.
And I said, but my children are more important. And I know this state heavily hands out death penalties, you know, for murder and mass murder and so on and so forth. And he's like, well, you chose wisely. And I was like, well, you know, I appreciate that. And began collecting data and building cases on everything that affected my family. Wow. Yeah. So I think there ended up being initially 10 arrests in the beginning, but it boiled down to like 44 in the long run. Took down quite a bit of the drug trafficking that was going on through there.
Amazing.
Yeah. And I really would have gotten a lot further in my child custody case had not my attorney decided to indulge himself. He said, since I was now in this official or unofficial capacity of one of the alphabet agencies, that he could use me for that advantage. Turns out his father had passed away and his brother was giving him a lot of grief over the inheritance, and said that, and I quote, "It would go a long way in your child custody case if you could come up with enough evidence on him to put him away." And I said, "It doesn't work like that. You can't send me after a target and me trump up or falsify some information to get him to go away." And he said, "Well, guess you won't get to see your kids again." And that was the last time that I spoke to my attorney. And he knew what was on the line because he actually helped me uncover what happened with my children. We were
So
going.
we get to him?
Yeah, we're getting to this now because we were trying to establish to the court that there's absolutely no reason why I should have supervised visitation. So he's like, "Well, you need to go see this shrink. You need to go see this shrink." So I go and see this shrink, and he is the county's recommended shrink. Okay. Now at the time, I'm a government employee. I'm a volunteer firefighter. I'm even volunteering at CIS, which was Communities in School, which I would go and mentor to 5 kids that were at-risk dropout students in middle school, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. And
But they're keeping you from your own kids.
Right. Didn't make any sense at all. So I go into the shrink, and it's Dr. Wade French, Tyler, Texas. And I take this 500 question test, and was basically 15 questions worded 500 different ways. So I take this test, and he's like, "Okay, well, I'm going to go over your test results, and I'll call you in a couple of weeks, and we'll get you to fly back down, and we'll sit down and talk about this." Okay. So I take his little test. I appease him. The next day, he calls me and says, "Mr. Hurley, I need you back in my office, like as soon as possible." I said, "Well, what seems to be the issue?" And he said, "Well, I'm going to be honest with you. Out of everyone in my career that I've tested, you've scored the highest that anyone I've ever tested. And I want to know why." He said, "Either you are a brilliant psycho or you're telling the truth." And I'm like, "Okay." So I, of course, talked to my bosses, and they're like, "Okay, look, you can take off next week." So I call him back. "I'm coming down Wednesday." So I get down there, and he's like, "All right, so let's find out what this is about. Why are you really here in my office?" So I go into the whole story. I was seeing my kids. Everything was great. And all of a sudden, they don't want me to take them, saying I've got a revolving door of women coming in and out of their lives. The reason why they're restricting my visitation. And I said, that doesn't make any sense. "Okay, well, tell me a little bit more about your kids." So I go into the whole story with my kids. This man turns white as a ghost and starts backing away from me. Now, he had just had hip surgery. He was using a cane. He starts backing away from me, headed toward the door. And he says, "I know your children, and I can't speak to you."
What?
Now, at this point, I'm like, "How the hell do you know my children?" And which is the exact phrase that I used when I got up and I approached him and backed him against the wall. And I said, "Look, if you ever want to walk again, you'll tell me how you know my children." And he said, I can't tell you, but I can tell your attorney." I said, "My attorney's office is 23 minutes from here. I'll be there in 11. If you're not on the phone or have been on the phone with him, I'll be back in 19. When I walked through the attorney's office, the first thing he said was, "He just walked through the door." He was on the phone with him. My attorney then told me, he said, "You need to sit down." And of course, I'm pacing the floor. I'm like, "How the hell does this guy know my kids?"
Yeah.
And he says, "You need to sit down." Now, my attorney was 6'4". He was built like my father. He was a mountain. And when he got stern and said, "I said sit down," I was like, "Okay." "Yeah, you got it." So I sat down, and he proceeded to tell me that one of my children had been abused, and that the abuser was the cop's son. the stepbrother. I immediately stood up so quickly that the chair flew out from behind me, hit the wall, and I made a beeline for the door. Opened the door, slammed the door behind me. I couldn't let go of the doorknob. My knees collapsed, and I started vomiting in the bushes. He jerks the door open out of my hand, and I remember him telling me, look, we'll get you something to clean up, and then you can come and sit back in my office, and we'll talk about what we're going to do from here. Okay. So I get cleaned up, I go in, and I'm a nervous wreck, and I'm like, which child? What's going on? And all they had was a hospital date, an incident. Well, I had a previous relationship with a woman that had been in the medical field that I knew worked at the hospital. Just so happened she worked in the records department. And I called her, and I was like, Michelle, what happened? She pulled the file, and she was like, oh my God, she's reading. I'm like, oh my God, what? Spit it out.
Yeah.
And she told me, and of course I'm shaking at this point. I'm like, I'm going to kill this motherfucker. Pardon my French.
No.
But I was then enraged because then now I realized I was being punished to cover up something that happened in their home on their watch.
Mm-hmm.
And now society and the whole world's looking at me as the criminal because there it was. Right. I had my kids taken from me. Mm-hmm. What the hell? So I start digging and digging and digging.
What's even crazier, though, you're the biological father and that you weren't notified.
Well, that's the thing. Social services worker Yolanda Love said, and I quote, we had an officer from the police department say that you had abandoned your children and they had no way to contact you. Imagine what cop that was. So we get back to digging and digging and digging. And I uncovered that not one, but both of my children have been abused. But the other instance never went to court. So they swept under the rug another felony conviction to conceal the abuse.
By the same kid?
By the same kid. Second child. I was infuriated at this point. I emailed the sheriff and I copied in every news source, Oprah, Dr. Phil, you name it. And I'm like, you know what? Unless I get a day in court, your county's going to be known as a molest one, get one free county, buddy. And if you don't think I'm willing to go that far, I'll go to the mountaintops and scream it, babe.
Yeah.
So I got my day in court. Turns out the Judge Getz, was a former police officer of the very same police department, and said, my ruling stands on the first sentencing, and this will, go on his record, but his record will be expunged when he turns 18, and he won't ever have to register as a sex offender or anything like that. And yeah, good old boy system.
Mm-hmm.
So they did enough just to appease me and get that second conviction, which was erased when he turned 18. Good old boy system. Tyler, Texas, and Smith County has been known for its corruptness. There's a book called Smith County Justice that was written that later became a film called Rush. And it was about the sheriff's department, a couple of deputies that they pressured to falsify evidence and information of people that they didn't particularly care for. Tyler, Texas is known for that.
Sadly, I'm not surprised.
Yeah, I'm
This
not either.
God. These poor kids.
Yeah. So they were 7-3 at the time. And I fought and fought and fought. And the more I fought and hauled her into court, the judge finally said, to appease him, you need to go to counseling and, mend this, fix this. They didn't really want to be drug into it because now you have a police department being represented. You have a judge, you have an attorney, all these people that are covering up what actually happened, which was a criminal act.
Sick.
And they're going to be implicated in it. So they decided to send us to COPE counseling. COPE was the name of it. It was in Tyler, Texas. And I went. And I got to sit down with my ex-wife just like this And we got to sit down with the therapist. And I got to tell them my side, my feelings, everything. And then the therapist looked at her and said, you were wrong. He had the legal right to know everything, physically, mentally, medically, about his
Yes.
children. He had the right to know. And because she was proven wrong or told that she did something that she shouldn't have done that was illegal, she never went back. I tried to file contempt because she refused to go to counseling. Swept it under the rug. Then they wouldn't even let my attorney file for, another court hearing.
Because this is the same jurisdiction on everything, right?
Yeah.
Same judge. Oh, God.
Yeah. And the police department is now scared to death because they have already been through 2 other attorneys. Their
They
attorneys,
should be.
their attorneys are washing their hands over. They're like, no, y'all screwed up. This guy's got every legal right to
Right.
rake y'all over the coals. So then the police department gets involved and they send their attorney to represent them to get them out of this mess. And they stonewall, railroad it, stall. And then, of course, my attorney pulled what he did and decided he's just going to step away from the case altogether because I wouldn't break the law and come up with information to put his brother away.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, it was a wild ride.
Shady ass shit.
Mhm.
God.
Absolutely.
I don't even know how you kept it together.
Oh, there were several times that I made it all the way to Atlanta with a carload of guns and not expecting to come back. But thankfully, and knowing that the state of Texas is the way it is with its law enforcement, that I would have never gotten out of there alive. And I wouldn't have been doing my children any good by orphaning them and going to prison or dead.
Right.
And like I said, I'm just very thankful that on that 3.5-hour car ride, I came to my senses several times and turned around. I can't do them any good dead.
Yeah.
But, and the ironic thing is if you're a father and you push to fight for your kids, you're the enemy. One of my children just absolutely hates me, won't have anything to do with me, the youngest.
Still?
Yeah, because he doesn't know this story. He refuses.
Well, he's brainwashed.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Now, my oldest, he was old enough to remember me enough to put aside what everyone said and said, well, I'm going to talk to my dad.
Right.
And when he became a father, everything else changed. And he's like, Dad, I really would wish you would just kind of let it go. And I'm like, let it go. You realize I don't even speak to your brother because she didn't let it go.
Right.
And I said, do you realize that in 2010, 15...
And they lied. They flat
Right.
out lied.
Right. And when everything started being railroaded and everything, I told her, I said, I'll write a book. I'll make this a movie one way or another. And I said, you won't want to see it and you won't want to live with yourself. You better change the way you're being. Of course, she couldn't tell her anything. But as long as she's still getting that $800 a month in child support, and I'm not getting to see my kids, and she
Right.
gets to buy a new truck every 4 years and live the life that she wants to live, while I'm over here being degraded, looked down on, judged, when I didn't do anything wrong.
Right. So you're punished constantly when it comes to your kids. Oh my God.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's tough. That's probably the only thing that anybody could have ever used as a weapon against me was my children. A father's main duty and responsibility is to protect his family and protect his own. When you take that right away, there's not much worth
You
living
would think
for.
she would have known that.
Yeah, well, she actually tried to provoke me one time. She was dropping off the kids at my
Of course
mother's.
she did.
Yeah, dropping off the kids. I got so paranoid about it that I built an in-car camera system, a hidden system in my car.
You
And this
have
was
to. Look
this
what
was
you're
in
dealing with.
2005, where
Yeah.
that technology really wasn't available.
Right.
But I went to the extent of taking the rearview mirror out of the car, hollowing it out, putting a camera inside, putting a unit in the back, just wiring up mics, everything to protect myself. And in just the child exchange. All because it was the he said, she said, well, you might want to be careful. My husband's a cop kind of situation.
Yeah.
Well, growing up around that, I knew, they are, and I have a lot of respect for law enforcement. I worked in it, worked with them. There's a lot of good people out there. In the same token, they are also the most well-armed, well-organized street gang in America. Depends on who's influencing who and for what.
Trust me, I know exactly where you're coming from. My biological dad shot my mother. He was a cop. Shot my mother when I was 1.5 while she was sleeping. He did 6 months in jail answering phones.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well,
Shady.
yeah.
I mean, like you just said too, we know lots of officers and
Oh, yeah.
feds, all of it. And there
Have
are
a
good,
lot of
there are
respect
good,
for 'em.
yeah,
Yeah,
there
the
are
good
good
ones.
ones. But the shit ones,
But the
they're
ones that
shit.
have something personally to gain
Yes.
and misuse that position,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, they don't need to be in law
Happens too
enforcement.
much.
Yeah. Especially when it's to cover up crimes.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we're all judged by our actions.
Mm-hmm.
Some of us get mislabeled a lot, like I was.
Yeah.
And you have to fight to change that. And sometimes it's really depending on how far you're willing to push and how stern you're willing to stand your ground.
Yeah.
I fought for many, many years over my kids. And when I realized that it was a moot point, it was just hopeless at that point after the police department brought in their attorney. And of course, my attorney turning his back on me after I wouldn't break the law to blackmail his brother. I decided, well, you know what? I got enough evidence on everybody that had something to do with my father's murder. And I turned it over and said, I'm out. And I packed up everything and took off and moved back to North Carolina. And did not want to pursue another government job at that point. Any kind of law enforcement was a bad taste in my mouth. And I went to work for a private contractor. I do electronic security entry systems now.
Okay.
And just putting that electronics background to work.
Mm-hmm.
But, I fought a long time for my children. And for them to, not understand or to think that the reason why you were fighting was just to get back at our mother. Get back at her for what?
That's a lot of time, a lot of heartache, a lot of money,
Oh,
all
yeah.
the things to just try to get back at someone.
Oh, yeah. I mean, as soon as I hired my lawyer, I handed over $10,000 and was like,
Right.
Whatever it takes if you need more.
Yeah.
This is my children. It got to the point to where I couldn't even get a court date for anything, visitation, nothing. So I thought, well, you know what? I'll get a court date. I just quit paying child support. Got $12,611.16, I think, behind.
Mm-hmm.
And one of my U.S. Marshal buddies calls me up and says, man, you got to go to court or we're going to have to come get you. And I'm like, I'll go. I'm just waiting for this point. He said, you knew? I said, oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. So right before the court hearing, the day before, I call the child support division. How much am I behind? How much does it take to get it caught up right now? And it's $12,611.16. Okay. So I immediately went to the bank and got a cashier's check. And I went to court. And he said, Mr. Hurley, I still got arrested, but I'll tell you that in a second. He said, Mr. Hurley, is there any reason why you got so far behind in child support? I said, yeah, because this is the only way I was going to be able to get my day in court, to get in front of a judge about this. And he said, well, you're $12,611.16 behind, right? And I said, well, I just happen to have a cashier's check right here for that amount, Your Honor. I'm not behind anymore, but she hasn't let me see my kids in 3 years. What are we going to do about that? He said, well, Mr. Hurley, you'll have to handle that in another court. And I said, Judge Dunn, I didn't think you had the balls to take care of this. Held me in contempt of court, had me arrested. I was in there for a full 44 minutes just to get fingerprinted, photographed, which I'm smiling. And I'm like, it's a horse and pony show. It's a freaking circus.
Yeah.
It's a circus. And until the judicial system is held accountable for ruining parents' lives
Mm-hmm.
with their children, It's going to
They're ruining
continue.
the kids' lives,
Yeah,
too. It's just, and it's happening everywhere.
it is.
Family court.
And they keep saying, well, we make laws to where CPS has to contact both biological parents in an instance like that.
Well,
And I'm
y'all
like,
failed.
you didn't do it.
Right.
I had to hunt down the CPS worker. I had to hunt down anybody and everybody involved. And it just by chance was sent to the very same psychologist that treated my children.
What are the chances, though?
Yeah.
Holy shit.
I've always been lucky like that, though.
Yeah.
No matter what bad things I've been through or been thrown in my lap, luck always seems to shine on me in some form, some way.
Going back to that kid that was the abuser, did he have to be removed from the house to be around the kids?
He was sent to a boot camp for a couple of weeks for rehabilitation. And
you can't boot camp that kind of stuff out of people.
Oh, but wait, there's more. The cop father decides, well, we're going to put a safety plan in place. We're going to keep the kids separate from these times and this times. And there'll be, there was a whole schedule, which 2 more instances occurred after that was implemented. But we didn't want to talk about that. We didn't want to go to court about that. So I'm being forced to have supervised visitation. At one point, she said, well, yeah, you can visit my kids, but you have to do it at my sister's for the weekend.
My kids? She said my
kids?
kids?
Yeah, my kids. But you'll have to do it at my sister's over the weekend. Okay, you want to play that game? So I go to Walmart and I dump like $400. I buy a tent, camp stove, blah, blah, blah. I camped out in the front yard. Camped out in the front yard. I didn't even go in the house to go to the bathroom. I jumped in her pool with a bar of soap. You gonna make it tough for me? I tell you what, I will endure it.
Right.
And I will keep pushing.
And you got to see the kids.
I sure did. But it was rough. And, for women really do have the upper hand and the power in the court when it comes to the family court. And it's sad because there's so many out there that portray the innocence, portray the, my shit doesn't stink when they're wallowing in the sewer.
Yes. Keeps happening, so they're just going to keep doing it.
Oh, absolutely.
They know they can.
But I decided in 2010, when my undercover run was over, that I was going to write a book. I was going to write this as a screenplay. I'm going to make a movie about this.
You have to.
And it just kept eating at me, and I kept writing it. But then, when you do that, you relive those moments and those instances, and the trauma with that. And it took me about 10 years to get over, to even be able to talk about it. Yeah. So chances were that I ended up going through a divorce in 2019. I married my midlife crisis. Yeah. I was 21. Oh, no, she was 21. I was 41.
Mm-hmm. I love that you just own it all, though.
Oh, yeah.
You're like, okay.
Why not?
That's what I did.
Yeah. I look at it like this. I may do something that is somewhat questionable, but I won't lie about it.
Right.
I'm very adamant in my actions.
So that makes a difference.
I take time to think. Growing up the way that I did, cause and effect. Mm-hmm. Your environment plays a big part on cause and effect. So you have to think things through before you act. Mm-hmm. And, and I tell everybody, I was like, it's not what you're accused of, it's what you've actually done. And I said, you can go back and pull up my arrest records, and I have a bunch. Right. I've been in and out of jail many times, not one conviction. Mm-hmm. All because he said, she said. Yeah. At one point, I even fired my lawyer and went in and represented and got everything dropped. Really? And I was like, this is common sense. So.
Sorry, I interrupted. So you had your married midlife crisis.
Right. Married my midlife crisis. And, she was career oriented, blah, blah, blah. I didn't want kids, which was great because I had a vasectomy.
Right.
I didn't want any more children. A couple of years pass and all her girlfriends start getting pregnant, start having babies and getting the baby fever. I want a baby. Oh my God. Okay. So I go and drop $6,000 and get a vasectomy reversal, which is the most painful thing in the world.
Really?
To overcome. Yeah. I had a vasectomy. When I had the vasectomy, the next day, the club I was riding with says, oh, we're going on a ride. And I was on 300 miles on a Harley the day after my vasectomy. Yeah, not fun. But the reversal was 3 times more painful than that.
Yeah.
But I did it because I loved her and I wanted her happy. It didn't work. It turns out I only have 1 kidney and I didn't know this. Yeah. I get the vasectomy reversal and the doctor's like, you only have 1 kidney. I'm like, what? So you only have 1 vas tube. If you have 1 vas tube, you only have 1 kidney.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh. So I get the reversal and then I start going in and getting the testing done to see whether or not I'm fertile. And they're like, there's a 99.9% chance you'll never father another child. There was too much scar tissue from the original surgery and going on the 300-mile ride after the vasectomy that there was no way to fix that.
Right.
And I'm like, oh. Later on, it was like, whew, dodge that bullet. Thank God that didn't work. Because she decided, even after we, you want to do adoption, blah, 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 whatever. I'm down. We pursued that. We went to Reach, which was a fertility clinic, to try even artificial insemination.
Yeah.
At like $750 a pop. I got close to like 10 grand into it. And then she realized that it was going to be cheaper, easier, and more fun to have an affair with the guy in the parts room at her work, at the dealership she worked at, to get knocked up and pregnant than it was to do all this other. Yeah.
Wow, you guys were married.
Yeah. It wasn't until I found out about it that she left and married him. And now they have 2 kids together. I'm happy for her. She got what she wanted. But in the same token, it was the methods and what she used.
Yes.
Some women can be very spiteful and will do whatever it takes to get what they want, regardless of who's affected. Parents, children, significant others, it doesn't matter.
Yeah. You got to experience that twice.
Yeah. Fun. But, I got to thinking about it and it ate at me. And I was like, you know what? After this divorce, I'm going to change my surroundings. I'm going to pursue this. So I jumped on Facebook and I started adding and adding and adding people that were living the life that I wanted to live or were in the entertainment industry, what have you. Well, one of them, she was a film director and she had a movie premiering and she sent me an invite like the next week to go to a premiere. I was like, I've never been, why not? Buy a suit and I'll go, it'll be fun.
Yeah.
So I go and I end up hanging out all night long with Chip White, Vanna White's brother, several other film directors, producers, actors, stuntmen. It was a great time. I had a great time. I was like, man, these people are really fun. And then COVID hit. Everything died. Nobody was doing anything. Oh, well, maybe nothing will come of it. I don't know. Keep my fingers crossed. And as soon as the restrictions let up, I had a director reach out and she's like, I need a bouncer for a film. Do you want to be in a movie? And I was like, I'm working part-time at a bar, Papa Doc's on Lake Wiley as a bouncer. I'm like, I can do this.
Yeah.
Method acting. I got this. So a couple days before the shoot, she's like, have you got a motorcycle? I'm like, yeah, absolutely. And I send her a picture of it and she's like, can the handlebars come down? Because I got like 21-inch ape hangers on it, big nasty bike. And I was like, no, the handlebars don't come down. Why? She's like, well, the actor is short and he can't reach those. We need a smaller bike. Oh, okay. So I call up the girl that I bought my bike from at the dealership. I'm like, look, can I borrow your Sportster? Now, there's a lot of things that you don't loan out in the motorcycle world. One of them's your old lady and the other one's your bike. Right. Because one of them's going to have a rod thrown in it. So I'm like, look, I'm going to bring you my bike as collateral. You can hold on to my night train. Yeah. I need to borrow your Sportster. I'm going to put it in a film. She said, you're going to put it in a movie? I'm like, yeah, absolutely. Okay. So I trailered my bike over there, picked hers up, And I show up on set with the bike and they were like, can you ride it? Girl, I was racing motocross when I was 8. I didn't do anything on this bike. What do you want? And then I thought about it. I'm like, wait a minute. You want me to body double this guy? This guy's like, comes up to here on me. That's when I learned about camera angles. So I'm riding, sun at my back. They're shooting low up the ground. And I come sliding up and they cut it off right here at the top of the screen on my leg. So all you saw was the bottom of my pants leg, my boot.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So, and it worked out great. And then cut, he gets on the bike, action, he gets off the bike, and I was like, dang, it worked.
Boy.
And that's when I started
So
learning
crazy.
the magic of movie making.
Yeah.
So I did that, and somebody on that set referred me to another set and another set and another set, and about 70 credits later, here I am.
Wow.
Yeah, I
Just
never.
spiraled.
You're right. It did.
Finally, something positive that's
it did.
spiraling.
It
Yeah.
did. And the more I wanted to pursue it, so that I could educate myself and find my people, find my cameraman, find my sound guy, find everything that I want to put together to hone my skills
Mm-hmm.
and tell my story.
Right.
Which I've put out and produced several films because I didn't want to go straight to what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
I needed the experience.
Mm-hmm.
I needed to know the craft. And I did a couple of films. I first produced and acted in The Wendigo, which is a found footage film. It got picked up for distribution by Terror Films and went worldwide. That was the first film that I had produced and was really kind of supporting actor. I played the park ranger in it.
It's amazing.
Yeah, it was fun. And
That's a lot to learn.
it is. And then I ended up jumping on board with another director, and I founded my production company and put that together. We ended up filming about 4 or 5 films, but I can't release any of them. Yeah. We released The Wendigo, and after The Wendigo, I started noticing characteristics of my partner displaying that were unethical. Yeah. He was kind of married and using film to run a casting couch and blah, blah, blah.
Oh,
And
Jesus.
yeah, basically Harvey Weinstein of the indie film industry. And
Yeah.
I'm like, I've invested thousands in this company with this guy. I'm going to kill him. So I brushed it off and I started collecting evidence and everything. And I'm like, once I got word from another director that he was bragging about stealing money from the company and had stolen over $1,000, I'm like, that's a felony. I got him.
Yeah.
And I confronted him with everything. He admitted to all of it and was like, I'm sorry. And I'm like, that absolves you of it? You stole over $1,000 and you've had literally 8 women complain in the past year. I said, this is unacceptable. I can't be a part of this. You don't understand what I'm trying to build here, and it's not that.
Right.
So we went our separate ways. And still to
But
this
you guys
day.
were still partners on those, right?
Oh, no. He walked away to avoid prosecution.
Oh, okay.
It was like, you sign over everything.
Oh, he did.
Just walked away.
Oh, good. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Go- some people don't like going to jail, and I completely agree with that because I'm too pretty for jail. I'm not a good fit.
Yeah.
I would hurt somebody.
Mm-hmm.
So later on, we're pumping out films and we're filming and all this kind of dominoes. And I'm like, you know what? I'm sitting on 4 or 5 films here that I refuse to distribute because my name's attached to it and his name is attached to it. And I had to give him the credit.
Oh, you do have to give him.
Yeah, it's in the contract. So I'm like, these movies will never see the light of day. And the bad thing is all the actors and all the talent that were involved in it, they none of them know.
Yeah.
They're just like, we're not going to release it. And of course, being a narcissist, he's got to run to that side and say, oh, well, Paul's doing this and Paul's doing that, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, just come ask me. I'll show you.
think he
I'll
would
show you
keep
the
his mouth
screenshots. I'll show you the screenshots. I have no problem with telling the truth. If you live the right way, you have nothing to fear.
Right. And if he's narcissistic, he has no boundaries. He doesn't care.
No, he don't. They don't. And those kind of people scare me because those are the kind of people that would trigger me into pushing it too far.
Mm-hmm.
Because I have such a resolve of,
Yes.
everything in my past that my patience is growing thin.
Mm-hmm.
And
I'm sure.
I'm
Like, holy crap. Who's wouldn't?
it's been a wild ride, and the whole acting thing, I really enjoy it. I really met a lot of interesting people, and I've noticed that a lot of people in the entertainment industry like that have suffered from trauma.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of realized that and noticed that when I am on set, when I'm another character, when I'm preparing for another film, I don't have to be me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So you almost spare yourself the pain of your own memories, thoughts, feelings, and what have you, because you're not that person anymore. When you go into character development, you become that individual. You get to set aside all that. This person's never gone what you've gone through.
Right. So it's
And
probably healing.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. And it gives me a chance to really kind of push my creative, a little bit further and really prepare myself for the end game, which is my story.
Right.
I ended up selling my Harley, and I got to missing and really hurting for my children so much that I sold my Harley, and I invested in over $2,000 in a Batman suit. Yeah. So I volunteer at the Children's Hospital, and I ended up joining an organization called Wonder Warriors for super kids. We show up with about 500 so costumes and let the kids pick out the costumes. Now, these are kids that are in CPS care at the Children's Behavioral Hospital. We let them pick out the costume that they want to wear, and then we go into the studio and we shoot in front of a green screen, with their favorite superhero, whether it be Batman, Supergirl. We have plenty of characters, actors that come in and do this for the children. And they pose with us, and we make them a movie poster and frame it and bring it to them so they have a window of imagination in that room that they are not allowed to get out of, that they don't have any windows in.
That's wonderful.
And I really think about that. And I think about the 6 months that I was in the hospital in an oxygen tent, not even be able to touch my mother because I was in this big rubber tent. And I remember being able to push against the shadow of her hand on the tent at 5. And the more I really kind of, talked to a therapist about it, and I unlock and really relive some of those moments. Some of them I don't want to, but in the same token, I need to. You have to have that closure. There are things that you do in life and you don't know why you do them. Why do I have this characteristic? Why do I have this trait? Why do I feel this way about this when others don't? What happened in your life that subconsciously you were reacting to something or an environment or an instance, but in a rational way or in a way that others wouldn't take it? So what it makes you different?
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm just sitting here thinking too, like, I hope your son that you don't speak to, like, hears this or sees it, because he obviously
I am so
doesn't
proud
know.
of him. I follow him on Instagram. I get to see photos, and I sent him a Christmas wish this past Christmas, and I did get a thank you back, but that was it. The 2 words that he's spoken to me or text to me in the past 2 years.
Maybe that's a step.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe. But
There's no way he knows the whole situation and what occurred and how hard you were fighting.
no.
Because they
And
weren't
it's a
gonna
very
offer
sore
that up.
subject, because even his brother has tried to talk to him, my oldest, and he won't have any part of it. He just refuses to believe it. I don't know if it's to save himself from his own memories
Yes. Probably.
or to save face from the one who's been brainwashing him all these years.
Could be a little of both,
Yeah.
especially if he's attached to her, which
Very.
kids usually are, even more so if they're manipulators
Mm-hmm.
and they just want to always please them
Yeah.
and they don't want to hurt their feelings.
One thing that my oldest son said to me the other day, and he was like, Dad, during all that, it really kind of looked bad on you because you couldn't really keep a relationship. And I'm like, well, let me ask you this. I said, when you go to a car lot, do you find the sharpest, cleanest, prettiest car on the car lot, or do you, find the clunker? Find the one that, there's something wrong with, or maybe something wrong with because, this, that, and the other. He said, I'm going to go for the new car. Okay. Exactly. I said, let me ask you this. How many women do you know with children or would want to be with a man that can't explain why he can't see his own children? I said, think about the risk that is involved with a woman that's getting involved with someone, another man or a woman or what have you, that can't even see their own children and can't even give you a valid reason.
Mm-hmm.
Either A, he's hiding something, or B, he's a victim.
Right. Did he understand more since he's older now? Did he
Oh,
understand
yeah.
that?
After he had a child, he was like, yeah, but he didn't. I've never really got to sit down with him and explain everything because it's a very sensitive subject.
Yeah.
None of us want to relive that.
Oh, no.
And I pray that nobody else has to.
Right.
There were many nights that I chose not to pull a trigger. Yeah. And not that, literally every day that thought would go through my mind. I would sleep with a pistol under my pillow, typically the pillow beside me, because I would have my hand draped over and immediately be able to snatch it if I needed it,
Right.
For whatever reason. A lot of people are like, due to your past, is that from fear? And I'm like, no, that's for readiness.
Mm-hmm.
There comes a point when you go through so much trauma that you would welcome death just to spare you from your own misery. Yeah. And that was the point I was at. I was like, I'm going to get justice if it kills me, period. For my father, for my children. How far am I willing to take it? 6 feet under if needed be.
Mm-hmm.
And I still feel that way. But I've been able to, make a life for myself, pursue my dreams, and to keep my promises. Yeah. And I will make a movie of this.
Oh, absolutely.
But if you get a chance, I'm going to leave you with some links. You can check out some of the films that I've done.
Yes, I can now. I'm excited.
Yeah, you can now.
Yes.
It's been a real wild ride. Like I was telling your producer here earlier that I never thought I would see the day that I would be in the same room with Sylvester Stallone, Liam Neeson, Pam Anderson, Kevin Durant, Danny Houston, Eric Roberts. The list goes on, and it's still climbing.
Yes.
And I'm like, I have been very blessed to be on set, involved in the same projects, or on screen with some of these legends. There's people that you grew up watching and were like, Well,
and I think with you, you've always stayed true to yourself and who you are, no matter how hard it was.
And that's the thing. Half the time, being raised in two different environments, you don't know who you are. Right. But you are whoever you want to be. Mm-hmm. And, I get confused sometimes because I don't understand why people can't grasp it. You have people that are stuck in these environments and it's like, just change it. But that's all they know. Mm-hmm. And they fear change. Yeah. So they stay stuck in the same rut, the same level of evolution. Because we do evolve. With every trauma, you evolve. If you survive it, you have evolved. So you got to keep surviving.
Amen to that one.
You've got to keep surviving.
Yeah. People are just scared. They're scared. They're scared of the change. And a lot of times they've been beat down, so they don't think they can do it.
Yeah. I think I was really blessed with the change that I've had throughout my life. Yeah. With, the different environments and whatever. Because I think the last time I saw my father as a child, I was like 6 until I was 16. And that was a remarkable meeting. Yeah. It was the 80s. I had long hair, Vision streetwear, I ripped up jeans. I had my Tony Hawk board. I had a 12-foot half pipe, skate ramp in the backyard. And I was the shit, And I talked to my brother and he's like, you really need to meet our dad. I'm like, okay, meet me at Golden Road Park, Saturday, 3 p.m. So I get on my skateboard and I skate. And Golden Road was about 4 miles from the house. I skate up there and I'm sitting on the bleachers. And I look down and I look the way I'm dressed. I'm like, oh my God, this guy's going to think I'm a thug. I have no idea who this man is, what he's like. And I'm like, oh crap, I should have worn something better, blah, blah, blah. And lo and behold, I look over and this baby shit yellow 1970 Volkswagen Bug pulls up into the parking lot. Okay. This guy gets out. He's 6'4". He's wearing fucking blue jean bell bottoms. This psychedelic shirt you could literally puke on and never see. These rose-colored glasses. These freaking lamb chop sideburns, and long hair. And I'm like, whoa! A roadie from Led Zeppelin just pulled up. Holy cow! And this guy starts walking up to me, and I start giggling. I'm like, fucking, I was worried about the way I was dressed. Shit. 1970 called, said, come back. So he comes walking up and he's like, are you Paul? I'm like, yeah. Are you Paul? He says, yeah. I'm like, well, nice to meet you. So he sits down and I'm sitting there thinking, oh, thank God I'm at least dressed in this decade. But it was so fun, you know, even though he was wrapped up in a life and a lifestyle that really is toxic. He had a big heart.
Yeah.
And if, by God, he told you something was going to happen, he would do it. And
Well, you're like that too.
well, apple, I guess, didn't fall far from the tree. But I did get a few good years with him, you know, from 16 to 18. Then I married and took off with my life and still made it a point to come by and visit and what have you. But I did get a couple good years with him. And that's one thing that my brother and I really kind of don't see eye to eye on, because my father really didn't have a whole lot to do with my brother growing up, simply because he was there, you know. And he said my brother even would tell you that he was more like a brother than he was a father, that our grandparents pretty much raised him, and Dad would come and go.
He was like a buddy.
Chase women,
Yeah.
blah, 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 whatever. And I'm like, okay, whatever. That was a part of Dad that I never really saw. Since I had such limited time with him, when I did get to see him after that time, and my brother had already gone off to join the service, he was a different man. He wanted to spend time. He wanted to go shooting. He wanted to, you know, I remember us watching a movie called The Running Man with Arnold Schwarzenegger, and they shoot him down these tubes to this game area, and he saw those tubes. He's like, oh, we got to do that. The next day, commercial for Wet n Wild comes on, and you're shooting down this tube, and he's like, oh, game on. So we jump in the car and we go to Wet n Wild. We spent the whole day. Now, he's got blue jean cutoffs. I don't think the man ever owned a pair of shorts. It's like, these jeans got holes in them. I'm going to make shorts out of them. So, but we go and we have a freaking blast. You know, we had a great
I love that
time.
you have those memories.
I do too. That's something that I guess nobody can take away from you.
Right.
You know, and we soaking wet, didn't bring towels, nothing. It was just on a whim. We're going. So we got the shirts in the windows, the car and window, clothes flapping in the wind, driving down the interstate trying to dry our clothes.
Yeah.
And you know, that was the first time that I really bonded with my father, and it was after that we really got close. And my thoughts and feelings and memories are I guess more different than those that had more time with him.
Yeah.
I'm just glad that I got to know, I guess, the better part of him. And I'm hoping one day that my kids decide to do the
I
same.
was just going to say that.
Yeah.
It'll be worth it. They
But-
just, for some reason, don't realize it.
Yeah. You know,
Yeah.
they say history repeats itself,
Mhm.
and I'm determined to be the cycle breaker.
Yeah.
No matter what it takes. Oh, I told my oldest son, who gave me a grandson, that I'm going to be that grandpa that you're going to want to tell if something happens to his grandchild.
Right.
Because you're too young to go to prison. I've lived a good life.
Have you got to meet him? Yeah.
Yeah,
The
oh,
baby.
yeah. Oh, yeah. And in fact, they came up here this past October during my birthday. My son, daughter-in-law, and grandson, they flew up and spent the weekend. And I told them, I said, buy him a Batman suit. They're like, why? I said, trust me. So we went to my studio where I do my podcast, and we've got an infinity wall and everything. I dressed up in my bat suit. He dressed up in it. We did some action poses and everything. I had a blast, you know.
It's a love, Grant, with grandchildren. People don't understand until they experience it. It's a love like no other.
It really is.
Yeah.
I love my grandchildren. I've got 2 grandsons now.
Oh,
And, you know,
we do too, and a granddaughter, a new grandbaby.
they're precious.
Yes,
You're just
yes.
like, oh my gosh. And you feel like that's an extension of me, that I helped
Yes.
create that, because had not been for me, you wouldn't exist.
Right. And I feel like it's sometimes, like even with my kids, or my oldest daughter and the grandbabies, sometimes I look at them and I think of who I am now, like as a grandma, as a Mimi. And I wish that I would have been that for my kids.
Right.
You know, the right headspace, you know, and just more mature, and you just know what life's about now. Kind of, sometimes.
Yeah, we all think
Yeah.
we do.
Yes,
And then bam,
yes. Uh-huh.
reality.
Yep.
But, you know, I started chasing the film thing, and I really enjoy it. I started doing the podcast. I was doing it every week.
What's the name of the podcast?
Creatives in the Spotlight.
Okay.
So I feature people in the entertainment industry, talk about their projects, how they got involved, what inspires them to keep going. You know, a
That's
lot like
awesome.
this, trying to find out the history and a little bit about them, but in the same token, promoting them and
Right.
their projects,
Yeah.
their interests, and so on and so forth. So it's been real fun. I've met a lot of interesting people, a lot of good people,
Yeah.
and
We have too. We've become friends with.
I'm sure
so many
you
people
have.
that come on. Yeah, like
I'm
it's
sure
just.
you have.
I don't know. It's a different bond.
Well, and when you share intimate moments
Yes.
and things that were life changing and developing of who you are today,
Right.
it gives you a little more closeness to that person, a little more family feeling instead of, you know, your traditional coworker or what have you,
For sure.
because they don't share that intimate stuff, you know.
Definitely not.
And there's probably more here than I probably should have shared, but in the same token, the waves have always been rough, you know.
I think your story's so strong, though, in letting someone know that you can make
You
it
can.
through it.
You can make it through it. You
Yeah.
can overcome it.
Right.
It is not easy. You know, I joined organizations like PAPA, People Against Alienating Parents,
Okay.
and other organizations that resonate with me. And, you know, still continuing to do things with children really kind of calms the screaming in my heart,
Yeah.
you know, because I didn't get
You
to be a
missed out
father.
on so much of that.
Yeah.
But now you have a grandbaby too.
Yeah. Yeah, I do. And I've already thought about it.
And it's a boy.
And I've already thought about it. I'm going to buy a home there. They live in Las Cruces, New Mexico.
Okay.
So I'm going to buy a home there and keep my home here in North Carolina. And I'm just, you know, 6 months here, 6 months
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
I don't like winter that much. I'm going to go spend the winter in New
Right.
Mexico where it's, you know, 60
Perfect.
degrees.
Yes. Yes.
You know, not the North Carolina in the teens today.
Yes.
So, you know, and everybody, even though I'm from Texas, they're like, "You're still cold?" I'm like, "Yeah, I didn't grow up in this."
Right.
But, you know, I was kind of taken, I don't know, I guess, a little more or too assertive in the film industry by some because of my characteristics and how I walk and how abrasive I can be at times, because I don't like sugarcoating anything.
Yeah.
You know, I don't like to belittle people. I like to build people up. But if you do something stupid, I'm going to tell you, you know, you're fucking up.
See, I'll take people like that all day long over bullshitters and fake people.
Right.
And, yeah.
Right.
I'm
I want to
like,
build
you
people
wanna
up,
know
but I
where
don't
you
want to blow
stand with
smoke
people.
up their
Yes,
ass.
Yes.
You know, I don't want to say, "Oh, I'm just telling you this. Oh, you're such a good actor." And then it comes out and you're like, "Oh, you fucking suck." But I'm not going to tell you that because,
Right.
you know.
Yeah.
But I don't like sugarcoating anything. I've spent too much time sugarcoating or being sugarcoated in, you know, people getting what they want
Mm-hmm.
and just completely disregarding what should be. I don't have time for it.
I love that. I think that's the way everybody should be. But you know how that goes.
Well, in today's era, you know, feelings are more important than facts.
Mm-hmm.
And today I'm just bringing you the facts.
Yeah. Well, too many people run on emotion only.
Mhm.
And that's a huge issue.
It's dangerous.
Yes.
It is very dangerous. If you act on emotion, like I said, I attempted to act on emotion a few times,
Mm-hmm.
but luckily it was so far away that I was able to come
reel
to my
yourself
senses and
back
say,
in.
"Man, what am I doing? Do you understand what will happen?" But when you mess with somebody's kids, sometimes you're just like, "I don't care what happens."
Yeah, that's your whole life.
And had I still lived in the same town, well, I wouldn't be here today. I wouldn't. I was lucky enough to have put enough distance between us to be able to rationally come to my senses and say, "Man, what are you doing?
Yeah.
You can't do that. You'll never make it back." But sometimes you hurt so much inside that you're like, "You know what? I don't want to make it. I don't want to live here anymore. I don't want to be this person.
Yeah.
I don't want to be in this situation any longer. I'm done." And due to religious beliefs, so on and so forth, you can't do it yourself because you just, that whole eternity in hell is kind of a turnoff,
Right.
you know? I mean,
A little bit scary.
I'm
Yeah.
from Texas. I like it warm, but at least it's 2 feet from hell, you know? But yeah, fighting an uphill battle the majority of your life really does harden you. It molds you. It labels you. And depending upon how determined you are to relabel or rebrand yourself, depends on, whether you got grit or not.
Mm-hmm. You definitely have grit.
Well, and I don't like being gritty. I really don't. I really want peace in my life. There's not an instance that I can't walk into a room and evaluate everybody in the room and determine whether or not they were a threat and in what order I would neutralize that threat. I can't walk into a single room, which made me a great bouncer. For many years I was bouncing in the bars part-time because it was the only way I could survive. I was paying so much in child support. My regular job, it costs to live. So I was having to work 3 nights a week under the table, making money just to put groceries on the table, make my car payment, whatever. And I did that for almost 30 years. I mean, I did private.
You had all this other shit going on all the time, for
and
so long.
I even did private security for David Allen Coe. You want to talk about dangerous? That man would not come out on stage until the air conditioners were turned off. And this was at the Rio Palm Isle in Longview, Texas in August. In Texas. God. Within minutes, it was 90 degrees in there. You know what happens when it gets hot. First song, he didn't even finish like the second verse, and I had 5 fights break out. And I was working for the state of Texas at the time, and I'm there in my Texas uniform, badge, everything, and I'm working security. I'm throwing people out. I grabbed the bar manager. I said, "You don't turn these ACs on, you're not going to have a bar. And by the end of the night, you're done." So I said, "I don't care if he walks off stage. Turn them on." And he comes out in shorts, dreadlocks, and I mean, just t-shirt. I'm like, everybody else is fully dressed, sweating to death, and he's jumping around. And he wanted a fight. He wanted a rowdy night, and he got it until we turned the AC on. But I've met a lot of people. I've been put in certain situations that I've learned a lot from, and I'm proud to say I was there. Because you only get one shot. You only get one shot. When the majority of your shot in life, somebody else aimed, it's not fair.
Sure isn't.
Sometimes you got to redivert that. It takes time. I never thought I would be here. I never thought I would be able to be in a position where I could share my story about what has happened in my life, what brought me here.
I think you've worked really hard at it, though.
It's been an uphill battle, from missing your kids and trying to substitute or fill that hole in a way that for self-preservation. There comes a point where the memory of someone hurts so bad that you resent their existence. When I realized that I was resenting my own children for being alive to spare myself the pain of them being missing for something that I wasn't even responsible for, that's when I knew I had to change something. I had to pursue justice. I had to pursue getting the truth out. That, you know what, you may have won that battle, but eventually I'll win the war because I know what I'm doing in my heart is the right thing.
Right. Do you feel more at peace with it now? Because you've done so much work.
I feel happy that it has taken me the road and the course that it's led me down in the entertainment industry and the people that I've gotten to meet, and the creativity. I've made some pretty wild films. I've been involved in some pretty big things. I was just watching Tulsa King the other night. A good friend of mine, she was actually on set yesterday. She's like, "Oh my God, season 5, Tulsa King, bye-bye." And I was like, yeah, I remember you're at Eagle Rock, right? She's like, "Yeah, Eagle Rock Studios, Atlanta, right? Yeah." "How do you know?" "Oh, I'm in season 2, episode 2. I've been there." Walk over the blackjack table, you'll see my initials drawn on. And she's like, "Oh my God." So, I have to say that it's put me in a different world. I don't know if you can remember it or not, but your life before the entertainment industry and then the entertainment industry and how everybody is, pulling together to make a project happen. And, you know,
Everybody has the same goals.
you
and
get the film family.
Yeah.
You do.
Yes.
You get a lot of family through film.
Mm-hmm.
I love a lot of them. I've met a lot of them that resonate so highly that are just, you know, you don't know how you could survive without them.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, man, you're always there. And in fact, I got a good friend of mine in Tennessee here that lives here now. And it's like, dude, you got to come by and see me. And I'm like, you know, you're in Knoxville, right? I'm like 3 hours past that. So we talked it out. You know, he was first like, let's meet in the middle and have lunch. Blah, blah. I'm like, dude, I can't. It's another 3 hours round trip. You know,
Yeah.
I got 6 more hours on Sunday. I'm not doing it. And I said, well, I tell you what, I'm coming right through Knoxville on the way home. I'll be coming right through there about lunchtime. Pick a place.
Aww.
So we're going to go have lunch tomorrow.
Good.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, he's been in several films with me.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
They're the family that you choose.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And sometimes it's way stronger.
Yeah, it really is. And it's scary how that works.
Mm-hmm.
It really does, because I've got such a strong sense of family that, I mean, I wouldn't even need to know the particulars. If I had a family member call me up, hey, we're going to do some shady shit. Are we taking your car or mine?
Right.
You know, I don't even know what we're doing. I don't need to know.
Mm-hmm.
Which kind of,
but I'm showing up for you.
Yeah, right. And, you know, that's the other thing about the whole bike club thing, because you felt that feeling of family.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, even though I was there for my own personal reasons, you bond with people. You become products of your environment, and you align yourself with those that resonate with you in a way that you feel safe, or you feel at home, or you feel amused. Right. Anything that brings apart an emotion that isn't threatening. And I really bonded with quite a few of those guys, even though, you know, they're on the wrong path or on a path that isn't right for me. At the time, it was a path that I needed to take.
Mm-hmm.
And
that was brave.
It hurt when I left.
I bet.
Because now I had to go create myself again and leave behind everybody. Yeah. And there were times that I missed. And there was times that I thought, well, I probably won't wake up tomorrow. But when you're hurting so bad from everything that, you know, your loss, your trauma, it's like, God, please just end it. Just end it for me. I'm not going to give myself up, but in the same token, just, God, I hope you find out. You know? Mm-hmm. Just to spare yourself of the pain of having to wake up the next day and go, God, here we go again. Like, this is real. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But yeah, I would sleep with a pistol under my pillow, and I'd get up every morning and put that thing in the nightstand. And the very first thing I would think would be, you know, wrestle with the idea of just, I wouldn't have to go to work today. You know, that's the only upside to it. You're like, well, get a day off.
I'm glad you're still here.
Yeah,
I'm
me
glad
too.
that you came and shared
this I'm
because
honored to be here.
It's deep.
It is.
And it will resonate with a lot of people.
Yeah, and I'm sure there's
a
probably
lot of
some things that I left out.
Moms going through a lot of that stuff.
Yeah. And just to be honest with you, I've left out a large portion of it because I'm saving that for the film reveal. Mm-hmm. But you got some of the highlights. You really did. And
that's still a lot.
You know, I sent a lot of people to prison. Anything from drugs to counterfeit money to automatic weapons to hell, I was even solicited for a murder for hire as a hitman. You know, I was in deep. Yeah. But I had to get street credit. Mm-hmm. I had to be able to, you know, not be suspected while I'm hunting down the man who murdered my father.
You played the roles good.
Well, and the ironic thing is the girl who was the daughter of the man who murdered my father, who I was seeing, when she learned that her father killed my father, she reached out to me. She said, we need to meet. And I'm like, where? She's like, at my cousin's bar. Now, I had,
Yeah, that's what I want to do. Go walk into your cousin's bar.
but wait, I dated her cousin in middle school.
Oh, shit.
Our families, and I had no idea, our families had been intertwined since grade school. Had no clue. So I'm like, okay, yeah, we'll meet at the bar. So I pulled up on the bike, we're sitting there talking, and she says, I have to tell you something. I'm like, okay. She said, my father murdered your father. And I said, I know. She got scared. She stood up, stormed away from the table, went straight to her cousin, talked to her cousin, and went out the door. Now, she was probably wondering what my intent was. If I already knew,
Sure, yeah.
Probably
scared the shit out of her.
I'm sure it did. I'm sure it did. And I hate that because she had a good heart.
Well, yeah, she was coming to you thinking you didn't know.
Exactly. But her father had threatened her brother with killing her brother, his own son, and was bragging about the fact that he was responsible for my father's murder. Yeah. Hit him in the head with an axe handle, which threw his head back with such force it severed his carotid artery and took him 10 days to die.
Oh,
They first diagnosed it as a gunshot wound to the head because it was such a blunt force trauma. The guy was a 3rd-degree black belt. Hit him in the head with an axe handle. Oak.
Did he just leave? Oh, God. Did he just leave him there
Yeah.
to die?
Yeah. On the side of the road, and his bike laying next to him.
Oh.
And then the sheriff's department says, oh, well, he fell off his bike. I'm sorry. I've been in law enforcement and a bouncer for many, many years, and I've knocked a lot of people out. You don't fall off your bike with your legs buckled under you.
Mm-hmm.
I said, that was standing up, and it was a drop. And I said, you can go lie to somebody else that's stupid enough to believe it.
Yeah.
And I hunted until I got the confession that I needed.
You sure did.
But there was a time that while I was pursuing and hunting that I was stalking. I wanted to know everything about him.
Mm-hmm.
I was across the street from his house. He lived in a rural area, and there was probably about 5 acres across the road. And I laid there in that grass with my rifle, and I watched him through my scope for about 2 hours as he's throwing axes and ninja stars and stuff into targets and, training. He'd wake up every morning and just train. And I watched. And I remember putting him in my crosshairs. And what scared me to death was at that moment I heard a voice behind me say, he's not your life to take, son. And it was in my father's voice. Mm-hmm. And I turned around. I thought somebody was standing behind me. It scared the hell out of me.
Yeah.
I turned around and nobody was there. And I realized then what that was. That was a road that I was going to cross that I would never be able to cross again or come back from. And I think he knew that.
He let you know.
Yeah. And that's when, like I said, luckily my attorney pulled me to the side and was like, this whole biker shit's not going to work. It's not looking good for you.
What do you mean? What do you mean?
Right,
Yeah.
right. What are you talking about? So, but, no matter what is thrown in your plate, if you got the stomach for it, you can finish it and you can move on.
Yeah.
That's only up to you.
Thank you for sharing.
Well, I appreciate it. Thank you very much for having me on the show today.
It was great. We're going to have you back. Like when this movie comes out,
oh, yeah.
know what you're doing. Yes.
I would definitely love to be back.
Yes.
Like I said, I'll share with you some links and everything before I leave today. So you can see some of my film work. And if you see something that needs, a little polishing, I don't. Look, I love constructive criticism.
I'm like
because
that too.
If you see something I don't and you correct it, and then I'm like, hey, you're right. That just makes me better at what I do. So
you're great. I love it.
You got to learn by doing, even though, and a lot of people are like, how in the hell did you pull all this off? You've got a 9th grade education. You had to drop out of high school, support yourself. You go to work in the IT industry. You supply communications for the city and the county and the emergency services. You're out here working on mountaintops, on voters, receivers, transmitters. You've done all this stuff and no training for it. And I'm like, you just learn by doing.
And you were determined.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was determined. I'm not going to fail,
Yes.
regardless. And I just kept pushing.
We'll make sure that Kenna puts all of your links in your description too, so people know where to find you and they can see some of your stuff too.
Great. Thank you so much. Yeah, it's been a amazing journey. Just meeting all the different facets of people, and being able to mold and make my life what I want it to be finally, not what it had to be.
Right.
I know that, look, if I can get through it, you guys can get through it. It's not easy.
Yes.
It's definitely not
Hell
easy.
no, it's never easy.
But you just got to pull your bootstraps up and keep trudging,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And it was funny because I was telling somebody about this, a little bit about it. And they were like, you just forced your way through it. And I'm like, yeah, I was taught that way from the time that I was taught to walk, push through it. You know, when you've got bars that connect your feet together and you literally have to walk.
Right.
That's the way I go through life, just like a bull in a china cabinet.
Yeah.
But I have to seriously kind of say, well, you know, knock this over. What's that going to cost? So you're like, but I'm going to be gentle. I'm going to be nice. But a lot of people have told me, they're like, you're intimidating. I'm like, sometimes when you go through so much in life, it's like a blowfish.
Yeah.
They blow up to make themselves, you know, not appear as prey.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm big and bad.
Protecting
Don't mess with
yourself.
me, you know? Yeah.
Yeah.
And you don't realize it, but you become that. You protect yourself so much in life that you come off as very intimidating or abrasive or, you know, I don't mess with this guy, you know? And to a point, it's almost like a triggered response. It's almost self-defense in a mental way.
Right. 'Cause you don't want to let people too close until you know.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Do the whole threat assessment. Now,
Yes.
but I've been so good at that since everything. It's almost like it enhanced my feelings, my perception, you know, being able to go in and say, well, that's going to happen. How do you know? Just wait. And then it happens. How'd you know? Look, cause and effect. If you don't fix this, it's going to affect that.
Right.
And you got to jump in and do it. And if you can't see it, then you're going to be blindsided by it. And I've been blindsided by it enough. So,
Yeah, you sure have.
well, it's been a wild ride.
Oh, yes, it has. I
Yeah.
heard some of it. If there's anything else you want to say to the audience, just totally look at
Right.
that camera.
Well, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
And, guys, I really appreciate you watching the show today. I really love what she's doing here because it gives people a chance to have a little bit of closure that they need. And I really think that, and I feel differently about it just after talking to you and knowing that
Good.
a lot of the viewers are going to get to see this. And maybe, just maybe, somebody going through something similar will say, you know what, that guy made it.
Yeah.
You know, I can too. And if I can
That's the
save,
goal.
if I can save one life just by sharing my story, I did it. You know,
Thank you.
thank you. I appreciate it.